Hi everyone, welcome to Dennis Deep Cuts, the 37th installment of this fine YouTube series. Today we are talking about books, and more books. Let's see what happens. Alright, so today we're going to talk about music biographies. I've talked about books before in previous episodes. But today we're talking about music biographies. I'm going to touch on a couple of biographies that I like, 5 of them, and I'm going to do a quick little episode because in a couple of hours I'm getting on an airplane to fly to America. So by the time you see this, I will be maybe playing a show in Detroit or something like that with fake names. So a quick little thing about music biographies. I talked about this before. I love reading music biographies, especially when I'm traveling and touring, because they're usually an easy read. If they're well written, you'll learn stuff and it'll get you excited about listening to music. And I'm one of those people that I like context. I like to dive in on their nerdy stuff about why and how, and like sub-genres and subcultures and culture significance. And I have friends that don't want that at all with their music. They just want their music to be their music and they're not interested in anyone's life story. I am, so I'm going to show you a couple of books and it'll be a quick one. All right, let's do it. So the first book I want to talk to you about today is Sam McPheeters' wonderful book, Mutations, The Many Strange Faces of Hardcore Punk. Sam McPheeters was, of course, the singer in fabulous bands such as Born Against, Men's Recover Project, Wrangler, Brutes, and more. He was kind of a figurehead in the sort of DIY scene in New York in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. And I love all his musical endeavors. And then he repurposed himself as a writer, and he put out this magnificent little book where it's kind of a biography, but it's also one of those books where, yes, there is a chapter about him being a trust fund baby and fighting with Sick of It All, which is incredibly funny. But there's also a chapter on why he likes Discharge, and there's a chapter about Green Day and other stuff kind of related to his thoughts and ideas about punk and hardcore. And I bought this and I read it on a flight, actually going home from the States when it came out. And I love it. I cannot recommend it enough. I'm going to reread it because it's incredibly funny and it's like one of those fast-paced, just like blast through it. And I found myself laughing out loud numerous times. So the next book I want to recommend is Tracy Thorn's wonderful book, My Rock and Roll Friend. Tracy Thorn is, of course, the singer in Everything But That Girl. And it's not a book about her or her musical career, but it's a book about her friend, Lindy Morrison, that plays in the wonderful, wonderful band, The Go-Betweens. They became friends, and they remained friends throughout the years. And Tracy was just like, I'm going to write a biography about my friend. And it's a wonderful book, well written, well crafted, and it's a cool, like, someone that's writing about their friends, but also has the sort of experiences of a rock and roll life or a life in music. I thought it was great, and I really recommend it. Next book I want to talk about is COSI Fanituri's excellent book, Art, Sex, Music. And if the title alone does not make you excited about reading it, then I don't know what. Art, sex, music, what more do you want out of life? She was, of course, a part of founding member of Throbbing Gristle and a part of the early industrial scene in the UK. She was an art student, she was a sex worker, and she was a pioneer in avant-garde music. It's an incredibly fascinating story, well written, and definitely something that you should dig into if you like music on the fringes. And I mean also like the fact that everything they did was very, very much on the fringes, but it was very influential for music in general. So check it out. I like books where you can get a sense of a time and a place and a burgeoning scene or something that's changing and shifting the cultural landscape. And one of those books is, of course, the wonderful book Hunger Makes Me Modern Girl by Carrie Brownstein. Carrie Brownstein, of course, the guitar player from Sleater-Kinney. She was part of like the rock girl scene and that whole scene of feminism and rock music that exploded in the late 80s, early 90s. I think one of the things with rock biographies, there's so many of them right now, and everyone's supposed to put out a rock biography. And they're mostly written by authors that interviews the musician, and then that's kind of like pieces that into a book, or they're written by an author about, you know, said subject, said band, or said person. Carrie Brownstein is a writer, and you can tell the language is rich, flowing. The music, the book is super interesting. The way she talks about music, the way she talks. I never heard anyone so poignantly describe the touring bubble as she does in this book, and it really resonated with me. And there was definitely a lot of stuff that I felt like I could relate to, the way she wrote about being a musician. So this is a super recommended book. The way she writes is just really, really great. I'm very much when it comes to books, I am very much into style. I'm very much into language. I'm very much into just not facts, but I like a rich, flowing language. I like someone that can write and that can make the sentences and the ideas just flow through the pages. And I think she does that. And I think it's a wonderful book that you should all check out. All right, the last book I want to show you and recommend for you today is Viv Albertine's book, Clothes, 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 Music, 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 Boys, Boys, Boys. Viv Albertine was the guitar player of the Slits, and she was a part of, you know, the original UK punk scene, and she talks about that in detail, in very graphic detail. But what I love about this book is that it talks about the early punk scene in London. It talks about them hanging out with Johnny Rotten and the guys from The Clash, and talks about them starting this band and they're touring, and you know, they're like, you know, they're that band. And then usually rock biographies has a tendency to be like gloss over the later parts of life. It's like, we did all these cool things, and then yeah, we put out some more records, and that's like the last 3 chapters is like 20 years of the history of the band, which I do really have a problem with. I mean, maybe our life is not that interesting when we, you know, past a certain age or something like that, but I take umbrage with that. I think that the story should be the full story. And Viv Albertine's book is kind of full story, because it talks about when she quit music and she became a video director, and when she tried to have a kid, and when in her 40s she wants to start playing music again, her husband leaves her because he finds it embarrassing. It's a wonderful book. It's incredibly well written, and this might be my favorite music biography of all time. I think it's such a tremendous, tremendous book. And she actually came to Umeå a couple of years back, and me and Sarah went and said hi to her, and she was just wonderful. And I cannot recommend this book enough. Viv Albertine, Clothes, Music, Boys, and it's just great. And there you have it, 5 book recommendations. And now I'm gonna pack my bag, and hopefully I'll see some of you out there in the pit in the next couple of days. And if not, thanks for checking out my YouTube series and, you know, following me on this ride. And let me know if you have any themes that I should talk about, and you know, subjects that could be interesting. Yeah, please. And like, share, subscribe. You know, all that nonsense. Until next time, stay well, my friends. Bye-bye.